What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Saturday morning edition of The Sweat. We are coming to you live from 8 o'clock Eastern up till 10 o'clock Eastern time here on DraftKings Network and VSiN. I'm your host, Emerson Latzia, Julian Edlow, Josh Applebaum, Steve Buchanan joining us virtually this morning. And we've got a lot coming up here in the next 2 hours, gentlemen. Yeah? Everyone buckled up and ready to go? Everyone had a good Christmas, feeling good and jolly?
Nice and jolly.
Yeah, you certainly look nice and jolly, big man. All right, coming up in this show, we're going to break down some college football best bets. Big slate today, big slate coming up on New Year's Day. Lions and Cowboys tonight. Is the top seed in the NFC in play? Yes or no, or maybe. For PGA Tour season will start as well on Thursday out in beautiful Hawaii, some primetime golf. Who doesn't like that? What everyone loves is when we start working up a sweat here. So which bets these guys are warming up to? It's how we start this show, this program, every Saturday and Sunday. Jules, start us off right now.
All right, well, last week I started us off with this Dallas and Detroit Saturday night game and the total. And I'm going to start us off there again.
Good.
Because I'm expecting points in this one, and I think the spot became even better based on the results that we saw last week. So Dallas, we know, coming off 2 road losses now in a row, they've been fantastic at home. They're undefeated at home, but they are averaging 40 points per game at home, going up against a soft Lions defense. Then there's Detroit, who their defense has been pretty poor lately. And in these indoor games, that is where they put up points. Obviously, they're very good at home. You say, the Detroit offense falls off on the road. It doesn't fall off on the road. It falls off outdoors. You want to look indoors. 30 points last week in Minnesota, 33 in New Orleans, 41 in LA in these indoor road games. So against Dallas, I think they'll be fine putting up points. And Dallas, coming off 2 losses, is going to come out here looking to go. I think this is going to be an exciting Saturday night game, and we're going to see a lot of points in Dallas. Spot really sets up for Dallas to score a lot of points if you want to look at that team total. Coming off the 2 losses, coming home against a Detroit team that just won the division for the first time in a billion years. If there's any short week to go on the road and maybe be a little discombobulated, this would be it.
Hey, Bukes, what are your expectations for tonight? Lions have played well really everywhere this season, but they're a little more vulnerable out of Detroit given Jared Goff's history.
Yeah, they're a little vulnerable out of Detroit, but Jared Goff has played historically well in these controlled environments, and that's kind of what they're getting here for this game here. So I like the over in this game here. Julian brings up a couple good points there. I don't know if the Lions are going to be, discombobulated because they just won the division. If anything, they want to keep pushing forward. They want to keep going in and making a statement and going for that number 1 seed. So I don't think they're going to be all discombobulated. That's a ridiculous thing to say to start this Saturday show. But I do think this game's going over here. I think it was at 52 points right now. Yeah, I'm definitely taking the over in that game.
Division, after you clinch the division, that's a time that you're going to be, maybe discombobulated is the wrong word, not quite as prepared as a Cowboys team coming off 2 consecutive losses is going to be.
That's a ridiculous take, but we'll proceed.
Josh, are you on the side of being discombobulated or the side of not being discombobulated?
So I would say, Emerson, I think there's a couple things to look at for this game. Julian's definitely right. The over got hit pretty hard. It opened as low as 51, got all the way up to 53 at one point. When it got to 53, you did see some buyback back down to 52. Now, you're getting right now 67% bets, 82% of money on the over. That's a low bets, higher dollar bet split that I do respect. And I think if you're banking on the over, you're really looking at this trend in prime time where, again, we started the season, it was death taxes and primetime unders. They were cashing pretty much every single primetime game, but everything, again, starts to regress to the mean at some point. We've actually seen these primetime overs crush it recently. The primetime overs are now 13-3 to the over the last 16 matchups here. So does that, kind of portend to a higher scoring game in this one? I think you could make that point. And I lean Dallas in this one, guys. Again, I think it is a spot. I'm not going to say it's a discombobulated situation here for the Lions because they are still fighting for playoff seeding. But I would say pretty good bet split, 50-50 down the middle. Public doesn't know what to do, but nearly 60% of the money is on the Cowboys. And you have this Cowboys Jekyll and Hyde home road where they're great at home, they're bad on the road, and it's a buy low spot on Dallas after losing 2 straight. So again, I lean Dallas, and I can't really argue with that over.
All right, Bukes. You take center stage right now here, homie. What are you warming up to?
So, going across the sportsbook, trying to find some bets that I like for the week. come across this Eagles-Cardinals game. I go, wow, it's a pretty large spread. Got to take it in favor of the Eagles, right? Then you start doing a little bit of digging.
Oh.
Maybe this isn't a spot to back the Eagles in this game here. So I'm going to end up taking the plus 12 with the Cardinals.
Ooh.
I was shocked to see that the Eagles are not covering these big spreads. And to take that even further, as a 6-point favorite or higher, Philly is 0-5 ATS this season. The highest spread that they've covered this season was -5.5 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers way back in week 3. For whatever reason, the Eagles are not covering these big spreads when they're favorites. Now, this is not indicative of me saying I like what I've seen out of the Cardinals or whatnot, but also the Eagles' defense has been so poor, especially through the air, that this really feels like a strong spot that I want to back the Cardinals in this game. Now, I know Marquise Brown is gone. He went on IR. He's done for the year and whatnot. And there really isn't a lot of flashy playmakers that are left on the Cardinals at this point. But when you really start digging into it more and more, it's surprising to see that the Eagles are really kind of not holding their own when it comes to these spreads. Like I said, like -5.5 was the one that they've covered most recently in week 5. Everything else has been below that, like these -3, -2.5. Those are the games that they're covering, not these other ones. So I was really surprised by that. I bet a lot of people didn't realize that they are 0-5 in those 6-point favorites or higher scenarios. But I think I'm taking Arizona in this spot.
Yeah, Jules, Philly did just snap its losing skid, but we know the Eagles continue to struggle to put teams away like they were able to do last season.
Yeah, Cardinals are past for me in this game. Philly hasn't been covering big numbers. Philly has not been dominant recently. They've been skating by against teams like the Giants that they can, afford to do that with. But prior to that, they were on a 3-game losing streak that easily could have been 5 games if they didn't, if MVS catches that ball in Kansas City, if they don't have the miraculous comeback to go to overtime with the Bills. That could have been a 5-game losing streak. And, we're not talking about this team as a contender whatsoever. So, this is a game that Philly should win, but the position that they're in, kind of dinged up down the stretch, these are the type of games when you get, let's say, a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, you take your foot off the gas and just try and get into the postseason healthy. So, yeah, this is the time of season where some of these larger dogs are probably worth a look. The only, pause here is that we are in crunch time for these draft picks. The Arizona Cardinals absolutely have to lose games at this stage. But with a number this big, I don't think it comes into play, really.
Yeah, maybe the total something to look at. There's the Eagles in home games this year, the over 6-1. Josh, what's your warm-up bet right now?
So, Emerson, we're looking at the end of 2023. I don't know if you knew this, but New Year's is coming up. And in 2024, right, New Year's Day, we have a big college football game. We actually have 2 of them. But I'm going to go to the one that I'm most interested in. I'm talking Michigan, Wolverines, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, Emerson, there are a few things that I love to do when I'm betting on sports. I love to go contrarian. I like to take dogs. I like to bet against the public. But I love to fade trendy dogs, Emerson. And I am looking at one of the trendiest dogs in the history of the college football playoff here in terms of Alabama. Now, if you look at the splits right now, Alabama is getting upwards of 70% of bets. Now, Emerson, right off the bat, this tells me that I have a contrarian opportunity to back Michigan Wolverines. Let's take a step back here, though. The public loves betting favorites because it's a safer bet. Better team, expected to win, expected to cover. The public doesn't like betting dogs. When they load up on a dog becomes popular, dog becomes trendy. I want to bet against that dog. Everybody and their mothers on Alabama, mostly because what have we seen recently and recent past? At least one of us will win this one, Julian. Alabama, obviously with Saban, he's got 8 titles. We've seen the Wolverines here with Harbaugh really haven't won these big games here. So I think there's kind of a bias recently against what we've seen in these big games. But also you look at what they've done recently in terms of their last game. You had Michigan roll over Iowa, not considered that great of a team, versus everyone remembers Alabama upsetting Georgia, who's won 2 straight championships. So I think there's a great spot to buy low on Michigan. And also from a betting perspective, Michigan only getting 30% of bets. I mean, this line, guys, has remained frozen at -1.5 for upwards of a few weeks now at this point. Does it get to 2? My question is, if 70% of bets are on Alabama, why isn't it down to a pick 'em? Why hasn't it hopped the fence and gone to Alabama -1? It's staying where it's at. I think the public continues to load up on Alabama because the Crimson Tide, because of Saban. How do you not take Alabama getting a 1.5? But I'm going the other way, guys. I've seen this movie before. When you have a trendy dog that becomes extremely popular, those dogs get fleeced. They get taken to the woodshed, Emerson. I'm going Wolverines on the money line, minus 120. Let's go, Michigan.
All right, Jules, where do you stand on this one here? We'll break down these college football playoff games, the 2 semifinal games, more coming up in the show. But right now, what do you got?
We have a college football playoff segment coming up later in the show. That's a tease right there.
That's a
We got a minute
tease
left
right
in the
there.
segment. Roll Tide. Roll Tide, roll. I'll explain why later. I don't care about the trends. I don't care about the number. I don't care about the market on this game.
Ooh, it's a
Alabama's
dangerous
gonna win
take.
the game.
All right. Well, I'll share with you my quick warm-up. Odds currently not available on DK Sportsbook,
Here's
but
always
I'm starting to warm up to the Jags missing the playoffs. Okay, Trevor Lawrence not going to play tomorrow at home against Carolina. Listen, this team has broken my heart for decades. Okay, I realize what they are. They are who we thought they were. There are problems on both sides of the ball, front office, ownership. I have zero faith in the Jags tomorrow with C.J. Beathard beating Carolina, and if they lose and you got the Colts and Texans, one of them winning tomorrow, they'll take over first place in the division with 1 week to go. Anywho, great to see you, Steve.
I agree.
Coming up, we're poking over to today's slate in college football, including a peachy showdown between 2 coaches dogged by the big game narrative. All right, the final stretch of bowl season is here. Soon enough, the college football playoff will command the spotlight. We'll get to the Final Four later in this show, but check out some of these meaty matchups we've got cooking on today's slate. The first one arriving at high noon, the Peach Bowl down in the Peach State. Penn State's James Franklin, Lane Kiffin of Ole Miss, leading their respective teams to 10-win seasons. That's great. However, both coaches dogged by the big game narrative. Jules, which coach dispels that heading into 2024?
Yeah, this is a pretty tough game, but it's actually one of the better games this deep in bowl season that isn't one of the playoff games because we actually have guys playing here. So, Ole Miss getting more and more points here. I would lean to the underdog in the game. Last night we saw Missouri come through out of the SEC against the Big Ten and Ohio State and somewhat embarrass them. We have another SEC Big Ten matchup here. A couple of 10-2 teams, obviously a little bit more impressive coming out of the SEC. I would lean to Ole Miss. This isn't going to be a game that I ultimately have a side on. I do think the total is kind of interesting. These have been under teams, and yet the over is taking some money, 69% of the bets for 80% of the handle currently on DraftKings Sportsbook. I think that we could see some points in this one, and it's been, in the Big Ten, that's not generally what we see. Penn State, a really good defense, but Ole Miss can really put up points, and if Penn State has to start keeping up, that could lead to a little bit more of a track meet, I think, than we expect. So stronger lean to the over than a side, but this might be a game that I just sit back and enjoy, not bet on.
All right, well, Josh, Ole Miss hasn't quite managed to really figure out elite defenses here. So, for example, Alabama and Georgia held the Rebels to 10 and 17 points, respectively. Penn State is a rough matchup for Ole Miss.
Yeah, it is a tough matchup, and I think this is a bit of a tough handicap, too, as Julian alluded to, because I think you got a few things going on right now. Like, number one, let's just take what the market is doing. I always start there when I'm breaking down a game. How is the line moving? Where's the public? Where the sharps are at? Looks like there's some smart money here on Penn State, guys. Penn State opened as low as -4. They're up to 4.5. I'm seeing some books go to 5 right now. So I respect the fact that this line is moving toward Penn State. Look at the bet splits. Penn State looks pretty good as well. Only 45% bets, 55% of the money. And then if you look at a system match here, 2 ranked teams, just take the favorite. That's 34 and 27 against the spread, 56% since 2017. We saw this cash the other day when Arizona played Oklahoma. In that spot, it was a tough slog, but you had Arizona kind of pull away at the end. You look at Penn State's defense, I think that might be the angle here in terms of maybe covering this number. But what's interesting, too, is that when I look at these games, guys, it's all about transfers, opt-outs, coaching changes.
Yeah.
You got to do your research here, Emerson. And the weird thing is that actually Penn State seems to have more of the opt-outs and transfers. Fashanu, who could be a top pick, he's out. Their tight end, their Chop Robinson, one of their edge rushers here, one of their top corners, as well as their defensive coordinator, Manny Diaz. He's now the head coach at Duke. So it's weird that Penn State has a lot of guys missing, yet the line's going to Penn State. So I do respect this line move here, and I do agree with Julian. I think the over could be worth a look. You saw this total open as low as 48.5, 49. It's up to 50. Really good bet split, 69% bets, 81% money. We're indoors at the Falcon Stadium, and there's these weird things with bowl games, guys, where it just gets kind of crazy at the end and they score a lot. I mean, remember that Kentucky game the other day? I mean, that was ridiculous.
Kentucky was bonkers. I had
42
the
points
under
in the
Notre Dame,
quarter.
Oregon State, 24
Flies
points
over.
going into the fourth quarter. It goes over. Gave that one to Emerson. Sorry about your 92-cent loss. That one, I mean, you're right about these late games.
Yeah.
So
does the defense not try as hard or just become a track meet? I don't know, but I would lean over here.
All right.
One quick last thing on the betting splits in this game, and also I'm glad you brought that up. So just talking bowl games in general, Josh, second half overs.
Yeah.
You grind it out in the first half, second half things open up. So just something to consider in all these games, really.
It's almost like these teams going to halftime and they make an adjustment.
Imagine that.
I'm a coaching minor.
So we mentioned the splits on the spread, but important to note, splits on the money line. On DraftKings right now, 34% of the bets for 59% of the handle on Ole Miss money line. So bettors they don't want to lay, it's 190-ish range on Penn State. They don't want to lay that, so you lay the points. But if they like Ole Miss, they're coming in and hitting the money line and just saying, forget the points, I want the plus payout. So there is more money on Ole Miss, I guess, maybe than it would allude to if you just keep an eye on the spreads for the splits for the spread rather than the splits for the money line.
I'm picking up what you're putting out. Josh, you mentioned opt-outs, Orange Bowl. This could get extremely ugly for FSU against Georgia. Jules, we were talking about it before the show. The Bulldogs have a few opt-outs, right? But then FSU has what, close to 24? I mean,
FSU is playing 2 of their 11 offensive starters. They're both offensive linemen.
All right, so just tell me right now, how the hell do you navigate this one from a betting perspective? Then this is a 20-point spread. This is unbelievable.
It really is. And again, this is steamed so hard toward Georgia. It's ridiculous. They open as low as -13, -14. You're up to -20. You mentioned all these opt-outs. I mean, it's unbelievable. I don't have to give you all the names, but Keon Coleman, again, could be a top wide receiver picked in the draft. You look at all these, defensive guys, offensive guys. I mean, you just have so many players who would be missing for Florida State. And you look at, the situation here in terms of laying the 20. Like, it seems like an obvious bet if Florida State's got all these guys out. But I'd be a little wary of that, just getting the worst of the number. So I think this is a great play to go under, Emerson. I mean, with all these guys opting out and Florida State not having a great offense to begin with since Travis got hurt, you look at what happened when Brock Glenn came in here as their third-string quarterback. They beat Louisville 16-6. I think the FSU is going to have a really tough time scoring on Georgia. The under is getting 87% of bets on the betting over, yet it's fallen 45 to 44.5. I think it's a play to take the under here with all these opt-outs. I don't expect much offense from Florida State.
Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so, I got some Georgia -14 early, and I did play the under at 45. I agree with you on the under. It's either under on 44.5 for the game at this point. I'm a little nervous Georgia pulls like a Notre Dame and hangs a 40, to be honest. FSU's not going to score in this game. The team total for the game is 12.5. You could look at that, but these late touchdowns we're seeing scare me a little bit. Never feels good to do this. First half team total 6.5. You get in the end zone, you lose the bet. I think FSU's getting shut out in the first half. I will play FSU first half under 6.5 points and say they get shut out. Maybe they boot a 50-yard field goal if they cross midfield at one point. But I think this is going to be really ugly for FSU.
All right, Jules, what's the play in the Arizona Bowl here? Toledo and Wyoming. I know Toledo's quarterback has transferred, so that could help the Cowboys get it done.
Yeah, this is one Josh and I have both been talking about for a few weeks here on the show.
Good numbers, Julian.
Good numbers. I'm on Wyoming +1.5, but I would still lay it with Wyoming today. I think it's a great spot for them. Craig Bowl, obviously, his send-off. Wyoming's got everybody in. They're going for it. Meanwhile, Toledo with Daquan Finn, who's now headed to Baylor, he has been the offense for 3 years. It's not like he just came in and did this 1 year. He has been carrying this program for 3 years with his just overall numbers every year. 2,000, 3,000 yards, running the ball, scoring the ball, running. So he carries this offense. So whatever Toledo has left, I just don't think is going to be enough for them to score many points, and you just get the perfect motivational spot with a fully loaded Wyoming team on the other side. Give me the Cowboys here. If you haven't gotten to it, you can lay the 3.5 today. I would still go there.
You guys are on the same page, right?
We
Josh?
are. And Emerson, this is why you got to watch The Sweat a few weeks back. Get in your
love
time
watching this
machine
show.
because this is a game that we love.
Then you got your numbers, and you don't have to worry about laying 3.5 today.
Exactly. Dog to fave line move toward Wyoming in this spot. Open getting a few points, now -3.5. They look like they could be going to -4. 70% bets, almost 90% of the money. Opt out to the star quarterback, star running back here for Toledo. And Julian mentioned kind of that motivational edge with Craig Bowl, who's going to leave the program and retire. I think the thing that Wyoming wants to do is put him on their shoulders like Rudy Emerson.
Yeah.
Send him off into the
Love
sunset
that.
with a win in his last game. I'm big on Toledo here, and I love that. If you bet it early, you're loving this CLV.
All right, Josh, what are you big on here for Monday? We're not showing the college football playoff games because we'll talk about that again coming up later in the show. So the 3 games here, Monday, Wisconsin, LSU, Liberty, Oregon, Iowa, Tennessee. What's your favorite bet from those 3 games?
I'm going to focus on the Iowa-Tennessee game, the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, Emerson. So get your Cheez-Its ready to go. When you're
They have an
Who doesn't
animal
love
mascot
Cheez-Its
like
with citrus?
the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Yeah. Pop-Tarts, Cheez-Its, whatever it may be. Anything you can do to promote your brand here, Emerson. But I think there's a couple options to here to go. One, I would say Iowa. Iowa is a team that went from +7.5 down to +6. You have a ton of opt-outs on the other side here. If you look at all the guys who will be missing on the Tennessee side, your star quarterback, Joe Milton, 2 of your top running backs. You have a lot of transfers on the defensive side as well versus Iowa, who's pretty much playing everyone. So that's why we're seeing this line go to Iowa. Even though Iowa in the spot, guys, they're only getting like 45% of bets. Public still just, kind of sees that Tennessee team and wants to bet them, yet it's falling because of these opt-outs. So I'll look toward the points with Iowa. And then also death taxes and Iowa unders, Emerson. Give me another under here, man. I love sweating these Iowa unders. They don't score, but they play great defense.
You really
They're
had
super
to sweat
slow.
them,
Yeah, well, it's a very low total.
Yeah.
36.5 down to 36 here, but 67% bets, 90% money on the under. Iowa unders this year, 11-2. Let's make that 12-2. Give me the under, and I lean Iowa on the points.
Jules, a non-playoff game bet for Monday.
Yeah, much higher on the playoff games for Monday. Don't love a lot on these three early games, but I am on the same page as Josh here. But we mentioned these games opening up in the second half, so I'll look to Tennessee, Iowa first half, under 17.5. I think it is a grind right out of the gate. If you made me go to one of the other games, I guess I don't mind laying the 10 with LSU. People are looking away from that with Jaden Daniels out. LSU is very capable with the backup quarterback, has a lot of talent, and they have a lot of the other skill guys out there. So I think that LSU is going to be fine, still roll over a Wisconsin team that's been struggling.
All right, dudes, let's do that basketball next, shall we? A top 25 Big East battle taking center stage. Which side Josh and Jules are backing, plus other best bets on the hardwood? You know, there's something special about Big East basketball. That's in large part, right, guys, thanks to the delightfully wild environments brought on by the crazy fan bases, the gyms, the screeching student sections here, Jules. We got a good one today. Top 25 throwdown between Creighton and Marquette. These two Big East teams, pretty evenly matched. The line currently offering just a sliver of lean towards Creighton here, I believe, +4. Who are you backing?
I am laying the 4 here with Marquette, favorite college hoops play of the day. Marquette's a really good team. This is a Final Four caliber team when they are at their best. They went to Providence, tough place to play, a place that they lost last year, and they lost again, 72-57. They bounced back strong at home against a really bad Georgetown team, but a 30-point win in that game. Now they're at home again. I know it's a little bit of a rebound spot for Creighton. Creighton lost a home game that they got bet all the way up to 9.5-point favorites over Villanova. I like Villanova a lot this year. Villanova stole that game in overtime at Creighton. This is a tough place to ask Creighton to go on the road and bounce back here in a really tough environment. Creighton's a really good team. They made a deep run last year. I think they're capable of doing so again. They just don't have it this year, though. They did get a good win, close win over Alabama, who's really tested themselves so far, but Creighton lost by 15 at UNLV. Had a loss earlier in the season, and then again to Villanova. So I just think going in a road atmosphere like this against a Marquette team that really only gets, flustered in very tough road environments, this is a spot they should be okay at home. I have no problem laying the 4 with the Golden Eagles here. I think that they get a big East win over the Creighton Blue Jays.
Josh, you agree with Julian?
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to take Creighton in points here, guys. This is the most heavily bet game, most lopsided game of the day. Currently, you're getting 81% of bets on Marquette. Big public play, most heavily bet game of the day. To me, it's a great spot to go contrarian. It's your top contrarian play of the day to bet against the public and take the points with Creighton. But it's not just contrarian. I think you're seeing some respective money on Creighton because of this line freeze. You pretty much opened Marquette -4. You pretty much stayed Marquette -4. Why isn't Marquette up to -5, -6? Why isn't this line risen toward Marquette if there's such a heavily popular bet play today? Tells me there's some reluctance on the books to move this number, to give out, the half point, the hook, or even better here to contrarian bettors on Creighton. Now, Ken Pom has this right at 4, so there's really no edge here based on the analytics. But I'll look at Creighton for another reason, guys. Aside from the contrarian line freeze, you also look at a dog who can score. Creighton is averaging 83 points a game. They're shooting 50% from the field. That really bodes well to keep pace, maybe backdoor cover, and also a big rebounding edge. I think if Creighton wants to cover or win this game, you really got to dominate the boards here. They're averaging 40 rebounds a game versus only 34 for Marquette. And Julian mentioned it, but I like kind of a bounce back spot. Creighton, disappointing loss in overtime to Nova. Then you look at Marquette, they just blew out Georgetown. So I'm going to buy low, sell high. Most heavily bet game of the day. Everybody going with Marquette here. I'll go with Creighton, but try to get the hook on that 4.5. It's kind of maybe kind of flirting with a 4.5. Get the hook, could be meaningful. I'll go with Creighton.
Well, then so if Marquette then goes to 4.5, 5, well, then it is moving because of the money and it's not a line freeze. Does that change anything?
Well, I still would say it's a relative line freeze. Again, still at 4 right now. And the juice, to me, it's important. Does it go to 4.5? Like a half point, I'll respect that. A full point, now that's a big move. If it's 5, that's definitely no longer a freeze. But the fact that they're juiced it up, but they really don't want to go to the hook, to me, that tells me, again, some liability with Creighton.
Well, the Pac-12, as we know it, enters its final college basketball season. We have a strong Saturday afternoon conference matchup between UCLA and Oregon. Jules, what's the bet?
Yeah, I got to this one early, laid Oregon -6, put it out on Twitter last night. We're now looking at Oregon -7.5. I'll still say to go with it. I'll still give my stamp of approval because UCLA is bad. They were 5-5 to start the season. I think dropped to 5-6 with the Maryland loss. That's the spot where I bought in on UCLA. Friday night game last week. You're at home. You've lost 3 in a row. And a Maryland team averaging 46 points per game comes into your building, scores, I think, close to 70 points and beats you as an underdog. Now, UCLA did get the road win to start Pac-12 play on Thursday against Oregon State. Oregon State is probably maybe the worst team in the conference. UCLA now goes to an Oregon team that handled a decent USC team pretty well on Thursday night. So I know you could say now it's a fall-off spot or a drop-off spot for Oregon, but they've been really good. They're staying at home here. UCLA's second road game in a row. They've just been dreadful on both sides of the ball. They don't have these guys anymore, the Jaquez Juniors, the Tiger Campbells. they don't have a go-to guy, and they're not able to play defense right now. Oregon's got plenty of guys, plenty of depth. I think they can run away with this one in Eugene.
Yeah, Josh, UCLA has defeated Oregon in its last 3 matchups, so obviously the Ducks would love nothing more than to end that losing skid here.
Quack, quack. I'm with Julian on this one. Let's go Ducks. Let's go Ducks in this one. Good line move here toward Oregon. They open -6. You're up to -7.5. And that's meaningful to me because public's kind of split down the middle. They still see that UCLA logo. Think of them as a really good team historically. They're getting a bunch of points at Oregon. Yes, the Ducks are at home, but seems like a kind of a big spread here. Yet it keeps going to Oregon. Even though it's a 50-50 bet split, 70% of the money is on Oregon, causing this line to move toward the Ducks. Anytime it's 50-50 and you see a line move, that's meaningful to me, Emerson, because theoretically, if the tickets are split, shouldn't move at all. But again, tickets aren't all created equal. You have some $5 bets, dime wagers, looks like the bigger ones here on the Ducks. Ken Palm's got them winning by 6, so you're no longer in kind of an edge opportunity here based on the analytics, but a big ranking disadvantage. Julian mentioned it, but Oregon is 47th in the country according to Ken Palm, and you have UCLA 85th. And then also, I don't know if UCLA
85 might be generous.
Yeah, seriously. They might even be worse than that. But Oregon's also the better offense. Can UCLA hang with Oregon? Oregon's averaging almost 80 points a game, only like 68 for UCLA. Field goal percentage, 47% versus 42%. And Oregon's great at home, 7-0. And again, they just took care of USC. So I'm with Julian. I'll go Ducks and lay it here.
Let's talk some Pittsburgh and Syracuse here, Josh. Both teams holding 9-3 records, although they've taken different paths to get here. It should be a fun game on paper to watch and bet on.
Yeah, I think this is a bit of a tough angle here, Emerson, because on the one hand, it looks like Cuse is the sharp play. This game opened Pittsburgh -1.5. It's now flipped to Syracuse -1.5. So the market is definitely moving toward the Orangemen in this spot. But what I'm getting hung up on is 2 things. One is that Ken Palm actually has Pitt winning the game by 1. And then if you look at the betting percentages, I'm a little wary of Syracuse becoming kind of trendy here. They're getting 70% of bets. Pittsburgh's only getting 30%, but nearly half the money. And you do have kind of a situation here where if you're going to go with the line move, it's Syracuse. But if you're going with the maybe value play and the buy low contrarian play, it's Pitt. So I'll always lean the market over kind of analytics because I think the wise guys know all this Ken Palm stuff and a million other things. So I'll lean Cuse. But I will mention Emerson could be a good spot to look at a high-scoring game. I lean over here. It opened 146. You're up to 148. 68% bets, 91% money is on the over. Both teams are averaging like 80 points a game. Good offenses. They're shooting like 45%. I'll lean over pretty hard.
Now, Syracuse riding a 4-game win streak here, Julian.
Yeah, this would be Cuse for me or pass. Josh broke it down pretty well, and that's pretty much why I haven't bet the game. You can kind of get talked into both sides here. I like that Syracuse is at home. I generally will go with the home side in these games, but Pittsburgh's the better team out of these 2 teams. But road trip to the Dome that makes things a little bit less even. So I'm just going to pass on that one and keep moving on this card.
All right, cool. What do you got then for Virginia, Notre Dame? Fighting Irish have, simply put, just been a better team at home than the Cavaliers have been on the road.
Another pass for me. I'll let Josh take this one away.
Joshua?
So I'm leaning a little bit toward Notre Dame. It's a really lopsided play here in favor of Virginia. They're getting 81% of bets, but it's pretty much stayed around 9.5. There were some +10s for Notre Dame. They're now down to 9.5. 12 o'clock game, I'd wait. Really, I'm holding out for the 10 if you're going to bet Notre Dame. But Emerson, I noticed this total went up in a Virginia game, which is kind of mind-boggling to me because we're always used to, obviously, UVA, the style of play, they're so slow. They're the second slowest team in college basketball this year, which they are pretty much every year. Total opened 114. It got it up to 115.5. Again, these are the totals that are so low. They're only Virginia games. But I'm thinking, do you buy low and take that under? Again, super slow, good defense. Again, typically you see a Virginia total open and fall. This one rose. So if you're looking toward the under, you're getting a better number at this point. I will lean under in this spot based on good defense and really slow pace.
Okay, so Jules, you got USC, Oregon State on your card?
Yeah, this is where I might bet USC is up to an 8.5-point road favorite here. That's kind of tough, but like I said, Oregon State is really bad. They just lost by 7 to a bad UCLA team, and that was a home game for the Beavers. Now USC comes off that Oregon loss, looking for a bounce back and playing the worst team in the conference. This is a spot that I think USC, who is a very talented team, Oregon's a tough place to play. Oregon State is not. This should be a spot where the Trojans blow out the Beavers. I think that USC should win this one by double digits.
All right, Josh, what do you think here?
I agree with Julian. This does look like a bit of a fade the trendy dog play. It opened, what was it? I think it was like -8 up to 8.5. So the line is going toward USC. And look at the bet splits. USC is only getting
lopsided.
Yeah, only 40% of bets, but 71% of the money. Public's taking the home dog there with the Beavers, yet the line keeps creeping up to USC. I lean USC here.
All right, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech here, guys.
Yeah,
got one.
Wake opened 3. I leaned Wake. Now it's to 4, so it's probably going to be a pass for me. But Wake has been pretty good. They've really impressed me this year. Like I said, I always lean to those home teams. So this would be a lay it with Wake or pass. If it does come down for any reason, I probably will look to the Demon Deacons there.
Josh, any opinion on this one?
Money line's a little high, like -180, -190. And yeah, I don't really like going like more than -150 on a college hoops money line. But Wake looks like the play, -3 to -4. Good bet split. Demon Deacons taking steam.
All right, guys. Cade Cunningham is doing everything he can to help the Pistons snap this losing streak. Are they in a good position tonight to finally
Has to be tonight.
end the skid?
Otherwise, it's gonna be
We'll
bad.
dive into some NBA bets next. Pistons continue to make history for all the wrong reasons. So the NBA record for most consecutive losses in a single season has officially been broken, and then some. So Detroit running its historic losing streak to 28 games with an overtime loss to the Celtics in Boston on Thursday night. Jules, it was close. They almost snapped the skid. So 28 straight defeats. The Pistons are now tied with the 76ers for the NBA's all-time record of consecutive losses. That 76ers team, I believe, have the fewest wins, hold the record for fewest wins in an NBA regular season at 9, which is why right now you could bet the Pistons 9.5 over/under win total right now. I believe 11.5 is the actual one on the sportsbook, right? But do you think they go over 9.5 and avoid setting another ugly record in the NBA?
I mean, it's minus 290, so I'm not betting it. But yeah, I do think that they ultimately do get to 10 wins. With the thought process being, this is the modern NBA. I know they're getting rolled right now. They've had some chances. They've had some bad luck. They've blown some 20-whatever point leads in Boston. But guys are going to rest down the stretch. If this team plays their guys and wants to not be known as that team that sets this record, they're going to find spots where they can win games. And spot-wise, tonight is a good spot, a home game against a Raptors team that had a massive lead in Boston, just like the Pistons, and ultimately fell short to the Celtics in another comeback. Now Toronto's got to go on the road again and play consecutive nights in Detroit here now. So the spot sets up for Detroit. I'm not telling you to take them or not, but if there's a spot where they can win a game, this should theoretically be one of them. As these spots develop throughout the season, as guys rest, as teams clinch playoff berths, the Pistons are going to have chances to win games if they want to. And they might far and away have locked in the worst record and lottery odds, especially now when the bottom three all get the same lottery odds. They're going to be able to afford to win games late in the season and not be able to worry about it. So I do think they ultimately get there.
I'm old enough to remember when the Pistons started this season 2-1.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, this is incredible. Look at this turnaround in Detroit. And then they have just consistently crapped themselves for 28 straight games. On the DK Sportsbook, there's a betting special here you can find in the NBA section. So next regular season win for the Pistons. So tonight, you've already said, could be a decent spot. Plus 150, you can grab them for their next win to be tonight. Then there's plus 475 at the Jazz. That's on January 3rd. Plus 600 at the Rockets. That would actually be on New Year's Day. So which one you think tonight is the night? Best chance?
Tonight's definitely a chance, but if I'm betting this market, I'm not looking to the easy answer of tonight. I'll say they're still 5-point dogs. Let's say that they lose tonight and try and look down the board and try and get some value here. Jazz haven't been that great, but they've been much better at home. Rockets are one of the best home teams in the NBA so far. Spurs could offer a little bit of value. It's at plus 750. The Spurs have not been that great. Wembanyama's resting some games. If that winds up landing as a Wemby rest spot, that could open a door. Let's take a shot here, though. Plus 950. January 5th at the Warriors. The Warriors have been a bad home team.
Yeah.
They've been resting guys here and there. Let's just say that winds up being a night that the Warriors are without some key guys, and they've been a really poor home team. If I'm gonna bet this, I'm gonna take a shot and try and get a good payout. I'll look at January 5th at the Warriors. January 5th isn't even that far away.
All right, there is some drama as well out in the desert, right? So Kevin Durant, not only one of the most reliable scorers in the NBA, we know that, but the Suns star can usually be counted on to respond to something he disagrees with in the media. Woj said a couple days ago, Kevin Durant's a little frustrated here, and we see the Suns aren't looking so hot right now. Not meeting expectations, preseason expectations. What the hell's going wrong in Phoenix?
They haven't been healthy, and that includes not just the big three, but also their depth pieces. A lot of them have been out, and that's something that I praised them for coming into the season. They did a great job addressing their need of depth. So I think that they've had a lot of moving pieces, and it's not to make an excuse. They've certainly been playing poorly, but look, Beal comes back. I know it's over the Hornets, but they get a win last night and kind of get back on track. They got a win in Houston, one of the tougher places to play. they can get this together. You remember the first year that LeBron went to Miami, that team was, I think, like a game under 500 at Christmas.
Yep.
They got it together. The West is tough. There's a lot of other teams that can certainly beat them. I'm not saying they're going to win the West or anything like that, but they certainly have just as good a chance as they had preseason in my mind, because they have the ability and the time to get this together, and we're seeing them start to kind of get those wheels going. So, yeah, it's been ugly. I understand why Durant's frustrated with some losses, but they can absolutely piece this together and have a strong finish to the season and be the contender we thought they should be.
So which is the strongest future right now then for the Suns?
I still think the East has the best teams and the best team in the Boston Celtics if they're healthy. I think that betting the Suns to win the West probably has some value, and so if you need to hedge it, you can hedge it in the postseason.
Nuggets currently the favorite in the West, plus 210. Suns plus 550, second best odds. Actually tied with the Clippers there, plus 550.
Yeah, and they were like plus 300 or so, I think, preseason.
Okay, so now's the time to pounce on
getting some value. Clippers, another team that obviously have pieced it together a bit, but now Kawhi Leonard hurt again. Is he going to be there in April? They need him. I think that you can. I think the way, if you want to bet on the Suns in the futures market right now, is to bet them to win the West and see if they eventually get that turnaround that we're looking for.
All right, so in terms of best bets on this Saturday slate, no Suns on the slate. Tons of other big dogs, though, ready to eat. What is atop your NBA betting card on this Saturday?
Yeah, going to be a shorter card for me on this Saturday, NBA-wise. College basketball, college football, and NFL will have plenty. I'm leaning towards the Wolves. They just dropped from 4 to 3.5. Not totally sure why. Maybe Karl Anthony Towns won't play in this one, but there's always a chance that LeBron or Anthony Davis, who are always questionable, could wind up sitting. But Minnesota at home, they've been a fantastic team. They've been great defensively. This is a good spot to fade the Lakers, I think. I think that Minnesota, the way that they defend, keeps them in every game. Anthony Edwards has the ability to be the best player on the floor on any given night, even on a floor that LeBron James is there at this stage. And the way that Rudy Gobert protects the rim is going to present problems for Anthony Davis. So I think Minnesota at home, we're getting a pretty short price here. I'll go Wolves minus 3.5 as best bet for the Saturday card.
Okay, so in terms of like the rest of the weekend, or is there another game on here? I see the Warriors are at home against the Mavs. You've already mentioned how bad the Warriors are at home.
I would lean Dallas there, and if we go to the betting splits, I think that's one of the more lopsided ones of the day.
Luka's playing like a man possessed right now.
So, yeah, the splits on this game are ridiculous. Obviously, Doncic has been out of control. 56% of the bets for 94% of the handle on the Dallas Mavericks plus 4. So if you just want to look for the sharp play of the day in the NBA, Dallas is that. Dallas has been poor at home, good on the road, I think, in terms of ATS, and Golden State really poor at home. So I understand why the numbers are what they are. Saturday night primetime game. Luka obviously looking to do his thing. I would certainly. It was between Mavericks or Wolves for me in terms of best bet. So, if you want to bet two of them, Dallas is definitely the second side in the NBA that I would be looking at for this Saturday card.
Where does Luka sit in the MVP conversation right now?
He's a guy that I always think is a little overvalued in the market, and I say to stay away from because the team probably isn't going to be good enough. Look at Jokic when Denver would get 6 seeds and lose in the first round. He was still doing the same thing, but he wouldn't win the award. That's kind of how I've felt about Luka Doncic, but this year he's playing at such an elite level that I would say he's more firmly in the conversation than he typically is. But if I'm going to look way down the board, I'm probably looking at Jason Tatum, best player, best team, the older narrative. I know we've been going analytically lately. Or a Devin Booker if the Suns get that turnaround. Those are the two guys I think way down the board that I would throw a dart at. But Joel Embiid's in a great spot to get his second in a row. The way that he's playing lately, there's a reason that him and Jokic priced as the two massive favorites again. It'll probably come down to them two. So I'll stay away from Doncic kind of in that mid-range and look deep down the board if I'm going to take a shot.
And again, real quick before we go to break, Pistons on the money line plus 164 tonight. That seems like a pretty decent price.
Well, I mean, everyone in the world played them plus 1,000 on Thursday night.
Big man, you came in at halftime when they had what, like an 18, 20-point lead over the Celtics? Said, I'm going to bet Celtics money line. Good for you. Look at you.
Thanks.
But I mean, tonight's the night. They
know tonight's the night. They're at home against a team playing on a road back-to-back, and they're about to go on a West Coast road trip.
Okay.
Tonight, if it doesn't happen tonight, this thing's getting up to like potentially 35 games or so.
Tonight's also the night for a little Detroit-Dallas action. Let's break this game down even more when the sweat returns. Second game of this Week 17 NFL slate will arrive tonight, kicking off a little after 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Detroit on the road to take on Dallas. The Cowboys have lost 2 straight. They're in the playoffs. The Lions clinching the division last week, but are playing for seeding here. Detroit playing consecutive road games, while Dallas is home for the first time in 3 weeks. Josh Applebaum, what is your play in this game?
We them boys. We them boys bigly.
Oh.
I'm going to say in this one, Emerson.
Oh,
Not
wow.
just covering.
How do you do, fellow kids?
But maybe a blowout here for we them boys. A couple things going on. Dallas, the ultimate buy low spot here. You mentioned Emerson, but I think the public is a little bit down on Dallas. They were so high on them earlier in the year. Dak was an MVP favorite. They were great at home. Again, have struggled a bit here. They've lost 2 in a row. But now you're back at Jerry's World, where you're fantastic. You're 7-0 straight up this season. And also look at the motivational factor. Again, talked about how Lions already clinched. I'm not going to put a ton into that, but I am going to put a ton into the fact that Dallas is fighting the Eagles for that NFC East crown here. So they have motivation to win and try to get that divisional crown versus just being a wild card team. But also you look at the buy low, again, losing some games versus Detroit playing very well recently. But I put a lot of stock into the betting percentages, guys. It's a 49% betting percentage split to Dallas, but 60% of the money is on Dallas, and you do have a much better defense here. Dallas is only giving up 19 points a game. That's 5th in the NFL versus nearly 25 for the Lions, who got shredded by Nick Mullins, who's not a very good quarterback last week.
Hey, so he got benched.
Yeah, got benched, and we'll get to that game later. Jaron Hall is going to start that one here today for the Vikings, Emerson. But I like the Cowboys in this spot. One thing I would mention is, see how this line moves throughout the day, because it's 5.5 right now. That's kind of no man's land. Does it get juiced up and go to 6? If it goes
I'm
to
seeing 6 right now on the DK Sportsbook.
If we're popping, that's a good sign to Dallas right now, Emerson. So I'll go Dallas. And again, I think if you're looking at a prop bet, though, Jameson Williams, over 32.5 receiving yards, minus 130. He was heavily juiced throughout the week here. He's gone over in 2 straight. He's getting more involved. Remember, he's a top pick here. He's had 6.5 targets last 2 games. Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to get a lot of attention. Steph Gilmore's going to shadow him. I think Jameson Williams maybe even goes over this in 1 catch here. I'll go with the Williams prop, and I do like Dallas to cover this number.
Steve Buchanan, Dallas 6-1 ATS as a home favorite, and they've won those by an average of 24.5 points per game, dude.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas has been stellar at home, and I think Julian mentioned earlier they're averaging so many points at home. Like, it's been absurd how good they've been at home. So I'm just taking the over in this game. You're getting a little bit of a slight of a discount here. This has been as high as 53.5, as low as 51.5 as recent as yesterday here, but sits at 52.5 right now. I like the over in this one here. We got Jared Goff in an indoor controlled environment. He's so environmentally sensitive. Like, I don't know what this guy's problem is, but like, he has to be in like those controlled environments to get his best. You have Dallas's pass rush, which has been one of the best, no doubt. But Detroit's offensive line has also been at full strength. That's going to give a lot of time for Jared Goff to throw. And on the other side, you have Dak Prescott, who is going to face minimal pass rush against him. Detroit does not get to the quarterback well at all. So that's going to give Dak a lot of time to throw. What does he do in those type of scenarios? Over 7 yards per pass attempt, a 78 adjusted completion percentage when he's working with a clean pocket. This just screams a lot of points here. I know that this is a high total in an NFL that's been all about unders all year long, but even at 52.5, I like the over in this game here, so give me that play.
Want to remind us again, Jules, how you expect Detroit to react after they clinched their first division title in 3 decades and not much on the line?
I just think it is a little bit of a down spot for Detroit. I like a lot of angles in this game, but what it boils down to is that my favorite angle, and it is a little bit of a Detroit fade in a sense, is the Cowboys team total. I put it out in my best bets, NFL best bets article on the DK network at over 27.5 minus 130. That's now up to minus 148, so I'll just make it over 28.5 at minus 120. Means they need to get to 30 in this game. Cowboys have gotten to 30 in every single home game this year. The only time they landed 30 flat was week 2 hosting the Jets. They're averaging 40 points per game at home. The Lions, they're allowing 25.3 points per game on the road. But indoors here in Dallas, I expect it to be inflated. And then, like I said, winning the division title on a short week, going up against an elite offense that's off consecutive losses. Dallas is going to do what it has done all season at home, and that is score 30-plus points. Team total over 28.5.
Well, Jules, you just mentioned the Jets. And, Steve, the Browns taking care of business against New York on Thursday night. So the Browns now have clinched just their third playoff berth since 1999. Joe Flacco remains elite. How serious of a contender do you consider Cleveland?
I mean, it's incredible.
Right?
Like, when you consider all of the guys that they have lost throughout the season. You know, they were without Amari Cooper in that last game. Elijah Moore went down with a concussion halfway through the game. They're down Nick Chubb, and they're still as good as they are. And then you have Joe Flacco just basically coming in here, has a 300-yard plus passing game in 4 games now against Jacksonville, Chicago, Houston, and the Jets. Like, those are not easy defenses to throw against. And he's making it look easy. But the other thing to consider, too, is that this whole offense has shifted their mentality like dynamically, right? This was, when you think of the Browns, there always have been a run-first offense. Since Joe Flacco has come over, he's averaging about 41 pass attempts per game at this point. It's incredible. He already has 47 more passing yards than Jake Browning has, and he's played 2 less games than Jake Browning already. Like, it's incredible how this offense has shifted, and it's working so well. So if you were to ask me a month ago, do I think the Browns are like a legit contender? Probably not. But if they keep playing at this level, with the lack of talent that they're really putting on the field week in and week out offensively, you have to take this team seriously, because what's been their crutch all season long? Their defense. So if their defense is playing well and then the offense is humming along like it is, boy, that's a team you really got to worry about come playoff time.
Jules, we live to see a time where the Browns have a better quarterback situation than Ohio State. And right now, Joe Flacco, even money for comeback player of the year. Hamlin's still minus 150, though. He's still the favorite.
All right.
Let's go.
One thing that we have been wrong about on this show.
Wow.
We said if you have your Hamlin and Aaron Rodgers exposure, you're going to win.
Oh.
Joe Flacco has entered the chat.
Oh, damn.
But good buy low opportunity on DeMar Hamlin.
Okay.
I'm adding to my DeMar Hamlin bet at this price because it comes down to the same analysis every week. I'm going to sound like a broken record. It does not matter if you are a DeMar Hamlin voter. It does not matter what any single player does on the field. You're either giving it for the play of Joe Flacco. You're rewarding it for a player that's coming back to play at a certain level on the field, or you're awarding the best story. Nobody's story, Joe Flacco's got a cool story, nobody's story is going to be better than DeMar Hamlin's. So, really, voters have already decided. You know how you feel. It's either you're giving it to the player that returns to play the best football, or you're giving it to the player that returns from the toughest situation or toughest storyline or whatever you want to call it. I believe that more voters are going to go with this, once-in-a-lifetime storyline of DeMar Hamlin over whatever any other player is capable of doing on the field. And it doesn't matter if Joe Flacco has 5 touchdowns next week or not, because that's in theory not what you are voting for. So I just think unless Joe Flacco has changed everyone's mind over the last couple of weeks because of how good he's played, I think that's a change in your philosophy, though, if you're a voter that initially was going to be with Hamlin. So I believe that enough voters have already committed to Hamlin, and nothing that is done on the field can change that. So I will reinvest again in DeMar Hamlin here, comeback player of the year.
I mean, Josh, I'm disappointed I'm not seeing Joe Flacco's name on the MVP odds board on DraftKings Sportsbook right now.
I'll take your bet there.
Okay. Lamar Jackson's the favorite right now, minus 190. But Christian McCaffrey right behind him, not really right behind him, but he's second, plus 500. It does feel like, Josh, that if there's going to be a year a quarterback doesn't win this award, it would be in the year 2023.
You would tend to think that, Emerson. I think at this point, and I think what you got to look at when you're looking at these awards is being reactionary. Not being reactionary, but trying to look at being proactive, because we've seen so many different changes when it comes to MVP favorite. I mean, I think there's been, I want to say, like 8 different players who at one time have been favored. You had your Tua, you had your Mahomes, you had Dak, you had Jalen Hurts. It's just been different every single week. It's hard for me not to like Lamar Jackson, though, at minus 190. I mean, McCaffrey plus 500, he's been fantastic, but as great as he's been, he's on a really good team with good offensive line, great weapons. Brock Purdy's been great. So minus 190 is a little bit steep here. Is there a chance where maybe Jackson loses and doesn't play well? Remember, Purdy was favored going into the last game when they lost there to Jackson. So is there a chance where Tua gets back in the conversation if they upset the Ravens? That is possible. But I kind of feel like this is your last chance to get Lamar Jackson. I don't expect him to lose to Miami, even though it is a very short spread here. So minus 190, I think there's definitely maybe a play here where give it another week and it's minus 300 Lamar Jackson. And I would just say in terms of coach of the year, we're talking about the Browns, Kevin Stefanski. I think he's got this thing wrapped up. What he has done with this Browns team, with all the injuries, left for dead, you lose Watson, you lose Chubb. He has kept this thing together. It's a testament to him and his coaching. He's now minus 300 coach of the year. It seems pretty steep. But Emerson, you're going to pull out a $100 bill out of your pocket, crisp 100.
Yeah, that's right.
You risk 100, you get $33. Doesn't seem like a lot. Well, that'll pay for your lunch tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a lot to me. Again, I'm a 92-cent bonus bet guy. Jules, just very quickly, Christian McCaffrey, could he be the first non-quarterback to win MVP since 2012? Do you like his chances?
He could be, but I'll also add Tyreek Hill here. Josh is talking about Tua jumping. I also think the Ravens win that game, but I also thought the Niners won and that Brock Purdy would be the guy jumping to minus 300. And now we're in a spot where Lamar Jackson has that chance. What if Miami wins that game and Tyreek Hill has 200 yards and a couple touchdowns? Yeah. Can Tyreek Hill pull a Christian McCaffrey and jump his quarterback in the odds board and become a non-quarterback that's a threat here?
All right, Bukes, we'll see you a little later for some New Year's betting resolutions. After this break, though, college football playoff picks, predictions, and best bets are coming up.
Roll Tide.
Wow! Back here on The Sweat, we've ripped through a bunch of college football games on today's slate, and also the first chunk that'll arrive on New Year's Day. But the two meaty matchups we really love and care about, college football playoff, baby. Michigan Wolverines taking on the Crimson Tide, and you got the Huskies and Longhorns that'll battle it out in the late game on New Year's Day Eve. Jules, I've heard you scream out Roll Tide many times throughout this show already. Before we get into the bets for this one, though, as controversial as they are, being in the playoff as the fourth seed, the Crimson Tide can certainly win it all here. Just how these two teams stack up. How do you believe maybe Alabama does have a leg up in this one?
Yeah, I mean, Alabama's been improving steadily all season, whereas, I feel like we've had more opportunities to find out what Alabama is than Michigan. Michigan has two very good wins, the road win at Penn State and then hosting Ohio State. But those wins, I guess, they're good wins. They just look less and less good as time goes on. Ohio State, I know they didn't have a quarterback. They just scored 3 points against an SEC team in Missouri in that Cotton Bowl on Friday night. What if Ole Miss beats Penn State by 20 today? Another SEC team comes in and smashes a Big Ten team. I know Michigan's the best team in the Big Ten, but they, outside of those two scheduling spots, they played one of the weakest schedules of any of these, elite teams in the country. They're about to find out against Alabama. Coaching advantage, Alabama's way. I like that Nick Saban has a month to prepare for this. That he doesn't get that often, and when he does, Alabama has been terrific. Michigan, since the coaching scandal, since Connor Stalions left, J.J. McCarthy's numbers have fallen off a cliff. Yeah. Some of it is that he's played good teams, Penn State and Ohio State. Well, guess what? Alabama's a really good team with a really good defense out of the SEC. Nick Saban's in-game adjustments. Georgia marched down the field in the SEC title game and scored a touchdown on the first drive. Live spread went to 13.5. Georgia's going to run away with this. Nick Saban made adjustments to the coverage against that passing game, and Georgia's offense struggled the whole rest of the way. I trust Nick Saban's adjustments. I think a lot of things stack up for Alabama in this game.
Okay.
They also were able, Michigan, really good run defense. What did Alabama do to an elite Georgia run defense? They ran the ball down their throats without senior running back Jason McClellan, their starting running back. I think this matchup is very good for Alabama. Okay. I know the public's all over them because of the recency bias of the Georgia game, but I think they're right.
I mean, Josh, we've seen the Crimson Tide struggle against inferior competition at times this season, and the Wolverines' defense, we all know, is legitimate. How many issues could they present for the Tide?
So, Emerson, I know my strengths and my weaknesses as a bettor and as a person. So if you want the X's and O's on this game, stay tuned for the New Year's resolution, by the way. If you want the X's and O's on this game, stay tuned and listen to Michael Lombardi. He'll break it down better than anyone you're going to listen to. But I know my strengths, Emerson, as a data-driven bettor, and I look at situations, percentages, line moves. Will every line move win? Of course not. Will every contrarian play win? Of course not. Betting's hard. But if you can consistently find that sweet spot where you're against the public and you feel like you're with the sharps, that's a play that I'll make 10 times out of 10. So even though I can't break down to you, the offensive line versus the defensive line, the corners versus the offense, to me, it's all baked into the number. So what I like about this spot for Michigan is the fact that everybody and their mother is on Alabama. Nearly, I think 75% of bets here, 70% around there on Alabama. Yet, we're staying -1.5 Michigan. Why aren't we down to a pick 'em? Why hasn't this flipped the other way and gone to Alabama being a favorite? I think the odds makers are telling you something by the fact that everyone is betting Alabama, yet this line is not moving. It tells me that they're reluctant to move the number down because really the side with liability is Michigan as the favorite. You have this situation where public remembers that win over Georgia. They remember all these titles with Nick Saban. They're low on Harbaugh because of the cheating scandal and because he hasn't won these big games. But I think that plays to the benefit of Michigan here. So I'm loaded up here on Michigan. And Julian, I smell a Dunkin' Donuts donut bet here. Week 18 of the NFL. Yeah. You're buying the donuts.
I'm a big donut bet
If
guy.
Michigan wins, I'll buy the donuts if Alabama
just
wins.
sit here and see who loses and get donuts either way.
That's
what
I do as the host, my sweet chinchilla. So remind us again why you're on Bama. Let's go.
I mean, a lot of it is what I said in the last segment. I just think I totally understand that Michigan is going to wind up being the pro side in this game. Like Josh said, not all pro plays win. I try and balance myself between when I want to be on those sharper professional sides and when I think the public is right and going to cash a ticket. Nobody thought Alabama was going to cover 5.5 against Georgia, and they outright win the game. So I get it. Everybody changed their mind. Ooh, that was the last game. We're gonna jump ship here, and that's when you zag the other way. But this game isn't a week later. This game isn't at Michigan. It's a month later, and it's a neutral game. I just really like how it shapes up for Alabama to be better prepared for this game, and the way that Michigan has looked down the stretch in the quarterback play, they can get away with some of these games without even throwing a pass in the second half. They beat Penn State on the road without throwing a pass on the second half. That's not going to work against Alabama, and they're going to make the adjustments to make this a game. So even if it's a tight game, I'm convinced Michigan's not running away with this by any means, and Alabama's at least going to give themselves a good shot to win this game in the fourth quarter. And matchup-wise, edge-wise, I think that they're going to have a lot of edges in that fourth quarter of a close game.
The total on that one's 45. Let's go to the Sugar Bowl. Texas, Washington, 63.5. Longhorns favored to beat the Huskies in a high-scoring affair and advance in the college football playoff, or advance to the title game here. So Washington, Josh, has really navigated a path to this point by dodging like several potholes here en route to an unblemished, perfect record, Pac-12 championship, but now comes the really hard part.
Going to be a tough game, but I like Washington here, Emerson. Now, they're getting 58% of bets. Don't love that. I'd rather we're getting 42% the other side. But one thing that I noticed about this line, as we've seen it kind of adjust throughout the last month or so, is that it stayed pretty steady at Texas -4. But anytime it goes to 4.5, a lot of wise guys take the hook there with Washington and bring it back down to 4. So obviously I think you're holding out for the best number. You only have a couple days left here, but I would try to get that hook. Could be meaningful. If not, I'll still take the 4 with Washington. What I like about Washington, two angles, aside from kind of that, kind of subtle buyback there, 4.5 down to 4, is that they're a dog who can score. They're averaging 39 points per game. They got some great wide receivers who are going to go high in the NFL draft. Penix Jr. obviously has played fantastic this year. He has had a career with injuries, and it all culminates with this game. So I think there's a lot of motivation, obviously, on both sides. But I like a dog who can score, keep pace, backdoor cover. I'm taking the points here. And then I'm also going to go back to that Ravens game against San Francisco, Emerson, because if you remember, going into that Ravens game, they were really disrespected, and it was a rallying cry. They were telling the media, why are we a dog at the 49ers? We play great as a dog. Let's use that as a chip on our shoulder, a motivational factor. There was an article that popped up today on ESPN about how Washington is doing the exact same thing. Their edge rusher, Braylon Trice, said, I think it's crazy, just the level of disrespect we get. I really can't understand it, but it helps us because it makes us have our backs against the wall as we go into these games ready to play even harder because we're the underdogs. I think that's a rallying cry. I think you're going to get a great effort here out of Washington. I'd love to get the hook. If not, give me +4. Let's go Huskies.
Jules, what side are you on here? For Texas, it's the first college football playoff appearance and best season since 2009, which ended with a loss in the national championship to Bama.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ultimately going to be on a side here or not. If I do, I'll take the points with Washington. I think they were my biggest future of the season with that win total. Bet them preseason to win the Pac-12. They keep coming through for me. So if you're going to give me, this many points with them, I would lean that way. I think this is a tough game. It could be anybody's game. What I do think, I'm going to be Joe Public here again for the playoff games and say that I like the over in this game. I think we're going to see points. Obviously, we've got two high-flying offenses, good quarterback play, good receivers, two bad secondaries on both sides, really. These are two of the worst secondaries, especially for power conferences in the country. And these teams both have the receivers to burn them. And why I lean to Washington is that they have the better receivers. So just going to player props, like Rome Odunze he played 13 games this year. He had at least 82 yards receiving in 12 of those 13. He had 100 plus receiving yards in 9 of those 13 games. I would look to him for a player prop over against this Texas secondary. You're also, if you want to just go by the numbers, getting the underdog, potentially playing from behind late, slinging the ball. But that's what Washington does. They're going to sling the ball out of the gates here. You're in the Superdome in New Orleans. I think we're going to see points here. I think we're going to see these receivers put up a lot of yardage.
Would you bet national championship winner right now? Or do you wait and see? You could also bet college football playoff finalists, like exact matchup as well on DraftKings Sportsbook.
Yeah, I have less confidence in that Washington-Texas game to bet an exact matchup. If I like Alabama, Alabama's going to be a favorite in the Natty, so this would be the time I would take Alabama in that 2-1 range if you're going to play it. And then, you got whatever, 2-1 ticket rather than laying. I think look-aheads are like 3 or so against Texas, 6.5 against Washington. So if you're confident, then go ahead. But I'll just be playing Alabama straight in that Michigan game.
Josh, what about you? Maybe
an exact with, in my interpretation of the odds board, maybe a Washington, Michigan final here, an exact number. But I'll take each game, kind of one by one here. I'll just throw this at you guys. Alabama, Michigan, 77% of bets are taking the over. Yet that thing fell 46 down to 45. Maybe you get a tight, low-scoring game with Bama and Michigan.
All right, gentlemen, we're hitting the links next. No more Jon Rahm on the PGA Tour. How much trouble they could be in as the season tees off on Thursday. fans, golf bettors, DFS lovers, rejoice. The PGA Tour season tees off on Thursday. I know. You have questions. And Jeff Ulrich has answers. Hopefully, maybe. Top of the morning to you, Jeff. How you doing?
I got answers, pal. I mean, we got the PGA. They're probably not going to be the right answers, but they're answers. And we're going to break down this season.
Yeah.
I'm excited. And there's going to be bets galore.
Well,
coming out your ears for golf.
Yeah, I love it. Happy New Year to you, Jeff. So starting with this, let's start with this potential merger between the PGA Tour and LIV. So the deadline was originally set for tomorrow, right? And then it comes out like yesterday, it's reportedly being extended with hopes of getting a deal done before the Masters. So neither side has really been quiet here. The PGA Tour discussing like a separate investment from a group full of traditional sports owners. LIV Golf, we know, just lured Jon Rahm to the dark side. What would a merger mean for golf bettors, though?
I mean, I think that the biggest thing that you could hope for as a fan or as a bettor is that there's some movement between the tours. Like that we see, that we can see Jon Rahm maybe play in a couple PGA events, even if they're just like, if they're not regular PGA events, maybe they're special PGA events where it's like the LIV players can come and compete a little bit, something to that effect, where it's not just, okay, if I want to watch Jon Rahm and Dustin Johnson or whatever, I have to go tune on the LIV broadcast. And if I want to just watch the PGA guys and like Rory, I got to watch him in like the John Deere Classic. And like, there's a little bit of movement. And then there's something other than just the majors where we get these guys together. I think that's got to be the biggest goal of these tours, where there's at least a few other events where we get the big names together. It's LIV versus PGA. And it's just a little bit more exciting, a little bit more competition. So I think that's the biggest thing that we can hope for, that we get a few fields like that. But I'll be honest. I mean, now there's a third group coming in for investing.
Yeah.
This all just sounds like it may just fall apart, which would be, I don't think it would be very good for the PGA Tour, to be honest.
No, and I don't think it's going to be very good for the fans, Jeff. So like if they don't get like a deal done here, how big of a letdown will this continue to be for golf fans? Because there's no question that they've been the forgotten part, like in all of this. And like a perfect example of all this like back and forth BS here with this sport in general, people who don't watch Century this next week, they're not tuning into LIV Vegas in February here just for Rahm. Like the viewer, the golf fan continues to lose.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And like half of these people don't even know when the LIV Golf Tour goes on, right? Like I don't know the LIV's tour. I have no idea. Like you said, it starts in February. I believe you. I have no idea. But trying to tune in to watch like a PGA event now, like you said, you're getting like 60% of golf because like the half of the top players are now gone. So you're trying to spread the golf fan across two tours. We don't want that. Like people just don't want that. They want the best players together. They want to go to one spot. Yeah, the fans absolutely lose out. There's no doubt.
All right, so Rahm, the defending champ of this week's season opener in Hawaii, and then Cam Smith won this thing 2 years ago. So the last two winners now on the LIV Tour. We're talking the Century here, the first of 8 signature events. So limited field, no cut. Odds are not currently out on DK Sportsbook. Salaries are on DraftKings if you want to start building lineups out there, people. But who is someone you're going to have your eye on this week, Jeff?
Yeah, so just a quick update on this event too. They've really expanded the field this year. Like this used to be like a 35-man field. Now there's now 59 players because they're including the top 50 players from the FedEx Cup standings. So not everybody in the Tournament of Champions has actually won an event last year. Just to keep that in mind. But I mean, this has typically been an event where like the big players do extremely well. Somebody of the top 10 players usually comes out, they get really hot with the putter, and they kind of just blitz the field. We saw Colin Morikawa do that last year, and then he got passed by Jon Rahm. So
yeah, he had a collapse.
I'm expecting it. Yeah, it was actually it was happened so long ago, but it was one of the nastiest collapses we've seen in a while. I'm expecting something similar this year. I really think a guy like Scottie Scheffler, who did not win even near the number of events he should have last year, could potentially just come and do what Jon Rahm did last year, which is get really hot on the weekend or something and blitz this field. I think Scheffler's got a great chance of paying off as a favorite here. Obviously, we don't have the odds out yet. Watch the DraftKings Sportsbook. Yep. They'll be out soon, but I am interested to see what he goes off at. I think he's got a great shot. And again, like I don't mind going back to Colin Morikawa here. He obviously won in the fall. He took a little bit of time off, some back issues, but as long as he's healthy coming in and he's practiced a bit, don't forget he was in contention at the Hero Open as well, Tiger's event. I think Colin Morikawa is another top player you should really have your eye on. Obviously, trying to make up for what he did last year, but those are two players at the top of the market I'll definitely have interest in.
Yeah, so odds for the Century not out yet, but we do have odds out for the Masters, my dude, and we are 100 days away from Masters Week, from first round of the Masters. We know Jon Rahm's the defending champ right now. Anyone you have your eye on very early? And kind of what's your strategy when you bet a tournament like this far out? Can you take advantage of some of these odds now?
Yeah, I mean, what you want to do when you're betting tournaments, like a futures odds, we call them, obviously, and betting them, months in advance, you're looking for closing line value. You're looking to get players who are at higher odds now. When the tournament closes, you're going to hope that their odds are lower and that they're in good form and that more people are betting them. You just want to get a deal. You're looking for deals right now. And quite frankly, if you don't see any deals or you don't think that there's people who potentially their odds are a value right now, you probably shouldn't bet them. You should just wait until the week of the tournament. The odds will fluctuate a lot. So right now, I got my eye on a couple people. I mentioned Colin Morikawa. I think a plus 2,200. Those are really fair odds. You look at the players below him. Right now, he's at the same odds as Max Homa and Xander Schauffele. Morikawa is a two-time major winner already. He's played well at Augusta before. If he wins early, I really think his odds will probably close closer to like plus 16, potentially even lower. And then, what about Cameron Smith? I mean, I know Liv has this run of majors. I mean, Cameron Smith has an excellent record at Augusta. Obviously went off in the final round with Scheffler the year he won. But, Cameron Smith having longer odds than Patrick Cantlay, that just doesn't seem to add up to me. I think Smith's probably you're getting a bit of a Liv discount here because he doesn't play. He's not going to be playing as much. I think these are very fair odds on Cameron Smith. I don't know if he's going to close lower necessarily, but I'd be happy to take Cameron Smith at this event at plus 2,200. I really would. Guy who knows this course extremely well. Mm-hmm. He does so well in these big events. We've seen him. He's not afraid to go up against these big hitters. I think those are pretty fair odds.
I mean, Liv has 3 of the last 5 major champions. You know who else knows Augusta very well? Tiger Woods. Got 5 green jackets in his closet. And would you look at that, Jeff? Today marks his 48th birthday. So happy birthday to the GOAT. He said in November he'd like to play like 1 tournament a month in 2024, focusing on the majors here. Bettors love this dude. Bettors love the nostalgia factor, right? The fairy tale return here, Jeff Ulrich. What advice would you have when it comes to putting this dude on your betting card? And why is it wait and see if he can even make it through some of these tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, let's start by just saying, don't bet Tiger Woods in the outright to win market. No. I'm like 99% sure that ship has sailed. I mean, it's Tiger Woods, so let's leave the door open a little bit just in case he does make some miraculous recovery. But let's not forget, it's the guy who's having trouble just walking around the course at this point. The talent is still there. I mean, we saw it at the Hero. He went on some nice birdie runs. I'm not suggesting just write Tiger Woods off completely, but you need to be looking outside the outright to win markets. That's just basically you burning money at this point. Look at things like to make or miss the cut. Tiger Woods is coming in. If he's healthy, if he's confident, if he's on a course he likes, certainly you can bet him to make the cut. We've actually seen the odds in that market flip a lot. It used to be, Tiger Woods to make the cut was like minus 250. Last time he played the Masters, it kind of flipped where it was, to make the cut, it was like plus 200, and to miss the cut, it was minus 200. Tiger can still make cuts. He's still extremely competitive. He's not going out there to shoot 80-80 as a ceremonial starter. I think things like that, you can still get some value potentially with Tiger Woods. So miss cut market, always a big one. Round by round, see who he's matched up against. You want to just avoid him in the outright market, probably like the top 10 stuff too. That's silly. Maybe top 40 market, but that'd be my biggest advice. Look for Tiger Woods in those alternate markets. We're not going him in for like a big finish. Just to make the cut here is going to be a big achievement for Tiger most weeks, I think.
All right, Jeff, I'll get you out of here with this for our golf segment. I want you to open that big, beefy Canadian brain of yours and deliver to us your bold PGA Tour prediction, or maybe just golf prediction overall. You can take this in whatever direction you want ahead of the 2024 season. Let's go. Bold prediction.
I mean, I think that Scotty Scheffler is going to have an insanely big year. Like my prediction is Scotty Scheffler wins 6+ times on the PGA Tour. This is a guy who again last year, historic ball striking, like up there with Tiger Woods in his prime.
Yeah,
and his putting was just terrible. We saw at the Hero, like if this guy gets any confidence on the greens, I think he's going to absolutely dominate. So I think Scotty Scheffler probably going to win another major. Probably going to win, like I said, in excess of 5 times. It really wouldn't surprise me if that happened. I guess that'll be my bold prediction.
Yeah.
I wish I had something bigger. Like,
me too.
Like Russell Henley was going to win the Grand Slam, but I don't have that. I'm just going to go with the chalk. I think Scotty Scheffler's going to have a massive year.
Thank you, Jeff. Hang out because we need your New Year's betting resolution next. o'clock of the sweat, everybody. And of course, it is the eve to New Year's Eve, and it is a perfect time now to share with everybody watching at home our New Year's resolutions, mainly our betting resolutions. Julian Edlow, Josh Applebaum, Steve Buchanan, Jeff Ulrich. I am Emerson Latzia. So what do we want to do in the new year from a betting standpoint here? Julian, lead us off, big man.
The script says I go last. Anyway, this is great because then the New Year's, I was gonna play off of other people.
Oh, do you want to start from the top?
You already threw it to me. In New Year's, we all have, you're trying to lose things. You're trying to lose weight, or you're trying to, get rid of some clutter. Sports betting, we're the opposite. We're trying to gain. We want to fatten up our bankrolls in 2024.
Work on that winter bod over here.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Hopefully more in the bankroll department than the actual...
On your body.
On my body.
Sack of potatoes.
Yeah, personality of a sack of potatoes, one of my favorite Twitter comments of the year.
Yeah, people love you on Twitter.
I'll try and work on that. I'll be like a potato with, a little bit of sour cream on it or something. Bring a little bit more personality.
All right, back to the resolution.
Anyway, the resolution. The resolution. We have, Josh and I have a lot of back and forth on the show. Josh will always play the market. I will try and play the market as well as measure when I want to go with the public. My New Year's resolution is to bet less games where less analysis comes into play. For example, yesterday the betting splits told us to bet a winless Detroit Mercy team laying points on the road. What did I do? I looked at the splits and said, you know what? I want to join everybody and lay 2.5 points with Detroit Mercy, who hasn't won a game all year on the road.
Yeah.
They got whooped. Why do I need to do that? I don't.
But their star player was out at the last second.
Yeah, that didn't help.
Yeah.
But I didn't. Again, small market game. We don't know that because there's less reporting on that game. So stick to stronger spots. I'll be giving my no sweat bet at the end. I would rather bet more money on my no sweat bet for tonight than lose a couple bucks betting Detroit Mercy on a Friday afternoon at noon. Let's stick to what we know. Fewer bets. More weight on those bets. Let's plump up our bankrolls in 2024.
All right, Buke, so maybe your New Year's betting resolution will be to fade Julian a little more.
There's a couple people who do have that resolution.
Yeah, I've been following that for years, and I'm doing just fine. I'm going to try and not back myself into a corner when it comes to some of these futures bets. Here's a perfect example. What's one bet that I've been...
Bills to miss the playoffs.
No. Before that.
Oh.
Pats under 5.5 wins.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Gonna happen today against the Bills. But what's that also going to do? That is going to put the Bills in a prime position to make the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna be cashing one and then losing at the same time. So we got to figure out how to, mitigate that a little bit here. So, obviously at the time, did not think that this was going to come up. I did not think mid-season that I'd be playing the Bills to make the playoffs, which at the time I will still go. I will take this to my grave. That was the play at the time in that match right before the Bengals. And now here I am. What's this, week 17? And I'm looking at this and I'm going, awesome. I'm finally going to win this Pats under 5.5 wins, but I'm also going to watch the Bills who are going to give us that win this game, and basically make the playoffs. There's a bunch of scenarios that need to happen. I think the Steelers need to lose, and the Bengals or the Jacksonville Jaguars need to lose too as well, but it's going to happen at this point. So backed myself into a corner. It was brilliant at the time, but here we are.
Why don't you just go ahead and load up on Bills minus 950 money line then? Make some more extra money.
Or Bills from the AFC East.
You won't do it, Steve. Coward.
Might have to.
Jeff Ulrich, your New Year's betting resolution. Hook us up.
My New Year's better's resolution sounds like the exact opposite of Julian's. I want to bet more. I want to make more bets.
More bets.
I want to stop being a coward and we got to take advantage here. This is the golden age of betting. I mean, there's all this talk about sports betting's it's wrecking society. What's it going to do? It's like hurting us internally. Give me a break. There's opportunity everywhere. There's great advice you can look to. You can get down in different markets. I want to bet more in 2024. I want to listen to great advice from guys like Josh and sometimes guys like Julian as well and Steve and get down more bets. So I don't know. That's my resolution. I want to push the advantage, keep making bets and look for new ways to get more bets down.
Maybe less betting on Tommy Fleetwood though?
No, absolutely not.
No, dude. He hit us with a no, dude. Josh, where are you going here?
So I got two of them. One, I'm going to bet more player props. If you guys remember, when I first met you last year, I didn't bet many player props.
Yeah.
I was mostly...
Right. I was like, this guy's a snooze. This guy's a bore.
I'm just a boring money line spread over-under. Yeah, sack of potatoes type better here. But as I've learned, a credit to my colleagues at DraftKings, you guys have turned me on more to player props. I've been betting more player props this year than I have pretty much ever, and I'm starting to find a little bit of an edge. I'm having fun with it, making a little bit of money. And Joku, by the way, coming up bigly in the first quarter with that over in the last primetime game. So my first one is to bet more player props. My second one, guys, I know we're bettors. We always talk about betting, but we have a life outside of betting. And one thing that I want to do is not let my day affect how I treat my wife. So if I have a bad day, I'm grumpy. I'm
rage monster.
I'm in a bad mood. I'm grumpy.
Punching holes in walls and doors.
I don't take the trash out. I get yelled at. When I'm in a great mood, I'm buying dinner. I'm taking her out. We're having a night on the town. I want to be
go to Domino's.
Yeah. Well, hey, Emerson, when you're home alone, you got to make the best of it. Maybe five guys.
Yeah, you can't lose all your winnings on dinner. You just couple Domino's.
But I'm going to try to be as even-keeled as I can be, like Bill Belichick. I could be up by 40. I could be down by 40. I want to be the exact same every single day. It's difficult because we're humans and we have emotions, but that's my resolution. If I'm 0-5 or 5-0, I want to look the same to my wife and be a good husband.
Your wife is going...
Is there any chance that you told her to watch this show today?
No, she never watches this show.
Watch this show.
Yeah.
Your wife is going to love your new. Your wife is going to love your new personality of Bill Belichick.
Exactly. You know what she says? She says, "How was the show?" I said, "Good." That's it. We move on to the next subject.
Yeah,
she doesn't.
We're on to the next show.
No, he's like, we're on to Domino's.
We're on to Domino's.
Yep. Pretty good deals, though, I got to say.
Okay, so then, Josh, right now, your no sweat bet. What is going to make you so angry later when
this better be a winner, otherwise it's going to be a rough night at the Applebaum household.
It's going to be a really rough night. So I did love Wyoming here. I'm still loving Wyoming in the bowl game, but I'm going to go to a college hoops game. I'm going to go Creighton. Creighton +4. It's the game we talked about earlier. Julian, look at the number right now. Creighton's getting down to 3.5 here, brother. So I think there's an angle here to back Creighton. I don't know if they win outright. Obviously, it's a short number, but it's the most heavily bet game of the day. 81% of bets are on Marquette. This line is falling down to 3.5. Dog who can score. Creighton in a bounce back spot. I'm going Creighton. Grab the 4 now before it falls even further.
Bukes. Let's go, dude. Help Josh.
I'm going to go to the Rams game tomorrow. I'm going to be taking Kyron Williams to go over 94.5 rushing yards. The Giants have been one of the worst run defenses in the league, allowing the third most rushing yards in the league. He's gone over this number in 6 of the 11 games. They love to use the ball, give him the ball, when he has been healthy, especially in the red zone. He's tied for 4th in red zone rushes with Christian McCaffrey. Same number of red zone rushes as Christian McCaffrey. He's been a monster. I'll give another Williams bet on the show tomorrow, but give me over on the rushing yards. That number's been going up over the past couple days. Get it now before it gets even higher.
Jeff, did you prepare a no sweat bet?
Of course I did. I have a no sweat bet and a semi sweat bet.
Whoa.
My no sweat bet.
Semi?
Yeah. Double prepared. I told you I wanted to bet more, guys. Listen up. My no sweat bet is Pittsburgh Penguins 60-minute line to win in regulation versus the St. Louis Blues tonight. Blues are terrible. They played last night. Penguins have won 5 of their last 7 games. They just blew out a team 7-0. -135 on the DK Sportsbook. I think that's actually very fair. And then my semi sweat bet tonight is Jahmyr Gibbs anytime touchdown +105. He scored 9 of 10 games. He is really dominating the red zone touches too. I like Jahmyr Gibbs to get in the end zone tonight. Going to be a high scoring game.
All right, Jules, bring us home here, man.
Marquette is really dropping. It's one of my favorite bets of the day, but it is my second favorite bet of the day. So I'm very tempted to go head to head with Josh just for fun and go with Marquette. But it's no sweat bets. I got to go with my strongest stuff here. My favorite bet of the day is Dallas Cowboys team total over 28.5. They've scored 30 or more in every home game this season. They're averaging 40 a game at home. They're off 2 losses. They have Detroit on the short week, off the division clincher, going on the road for the second time in a row. Everything lines up for the Dallas Cowboys to put up points tonight against a Detroit defense giving up over 25 points per game on the road. Now you take that indoors to Jerry World. Cowboys are putting up a big number tonight. I'm convinced of that, so I have to go there for my no sweat bet. Marquette's right behind him. Don't care about the line.
All right, Jeff, quickly, who wins tonight? Dallas or Detroit?
Dallas.
All right,
it's a Dallas spot. It's a
Emerson, what's your New Year's resolution? Your betting resolution?
No, Josh.
Check on that unit size.
Spend more time with my dogs.
Oh, look, I like that.
That's what I would like to do.
I don't know.
My favorite people on this planet. Okay, everyone, thanks for hanging out and watching. Let's wish the Applebaum household the best of luck tonight.
Fingers crossed.
And we'll see everyone tomorrow morning back here on The Sweat, 8 o'clock Eastern Time.